They say you can measure a man's worth by who shows up when he's at his lowest. If that's true, then I was worth exactly 0 the day I nearly died. It started in the boardroom. The overhead lights were harsh, flickering in a way that felt more like warning signals than a design flaw. I stood in front of the quarterly revenue projections, my mouth moving, but my brain refusing to cooperate. Charts blurred. Letters danced. My heart thundered against my ribs, fast and wild like it was trying to claw its way out of my chest. I gripped the edge of the podium, knuckles white, trying to steady myself. The room fell into an eerie silence as I faltered. 40 executives in tailored suits stared at me, waiting for the numbers I had memorized cold. I opened my mouth, but the words refused to come. Just static, muffled noise inside my own skull. "Mr. Moore," someone called out. "Are you okay?" I tried to nod, tried to speak, but then the floor tilted. And the next thing I knew, I was looking at the ceiling tiles, watching them spin like a carousel as my body gave up. Someone screamed. Another voice barked for an ambulance. A pair of hands, I think it was my assistant Kyle, tried to hold my head up, his voice shaking. "Ethan, stay with us. Help is on the way." I remember trying to reach for my phone. I needed to call someone. Anyone. Call my family, I whispered. My voice barely existed. Then everything went dark. When I came to, the first sensation was cold. Not just the sterile chill of a hospital room, but something deeper, colder. The kind that settled into your bones and made you question if you'd ever feel warm again. Voices swirled around me. Nurses, beeping monitors, urgent terms like ventricular arrhythmia and emergency bypass. I remember a nurse leaning over, prepping my arm for the 4. I grabbed her wrist, weak but determined. "My phone," I croaked. "Please, I need to call my family." She hesitated, then gently handed it over. I dialed my father first, straight to voicemail. Then my mother. Same thing. My fingers trembled as I typed out messages. "Dad, I'm in ICU. Just had heart surgery. Please come." "Mom, I'm scared. They said I almost didn't make it. Please answer." No reply. The nurse came back and softly took the phone from my hand. "We need to take you in now," she said. "They'll be here when you wake up." They weren't. I opened my eyes to the beep, beep, beep of machines, the antiseptic glow of monitors and fluorescent lights. The room was quiet. Too quiet. No flowers. No family. No frantic loved ones asking doctors what happened. Just a folded note on the tray beside my bed. "Kyle, we'll be back in the morning. You've got this." A night nurse walked in, kind eyes, calm presence. She checked my pulse, adjusted my 4. "Your mom left a voicemail earlier," she said, glancing at my phone. "Want to hear it?" I nodded. Hope bloomed for half a second. The message played. "Hey, honey, we got your messages, but we can't come right now. Harper is having a total meltdown over the paint in her new place. They used the wrong shade of seafoam, and she's been hysterical. You know how she gets. We'll swing by tomorrow if she's feeling better. Love you." I didn't say anything. I just stared at the ceiling as tears leaked sideways into the hospital pillow. Not from pain, but from clarity. I wasn't a priority, not even when my heart stopped. The morning after my surgery, the nurse said my vitals were stronger. Heart rate steadier. Oxygen levels back to normal. My body was healing, but something deeper in me had snapped clean through. And maybe that was a good thing. I stared at my phone, still no replies. My last message had read, "Still alive? In ICU. Thanks for the concern." My mom liked it. Didn't respond. Didn't call. Just reacted with a thumbs up. That's when I knew. Not just that they didn't care, but that they never truly had. I had built a fortress for them. Paid Harper's rent more times than I could count. Bought my parents that summer house in Boca Raton when Dad's 401k took a hit. I covered every crack in their lives like drywall over a termite nest. And the second I was the one crumbling, they left me on read. A quiet knock pulled me out of the fog. Derek stepped into the room, briefcase in hand, dark suit still sharp despite the hour. He looked at me for a long beat, then exhaled. "Jesus, Ethan, you look like you wrestled death and lost on points." I smirked, voice still hoarse. "Thanks. Good to see you too." He sat beside my bed, already pulling out folders. "You said you wanted everything," he said. "Are you sure?" I nodded. Every account, every asset, every tie. Derek hesitated. We'd been friends since freshman year. He'd seen me pour decades of my life into keeping my family afloat, emotionally, financially, publicly. He knew this wasn't a decision I made lightly. But he also knew I'd never been more serious. We started with the will. Removed both parents as beneficiaries. Next, the bank accounts. I had 4 open credit lines under my name that Harper regularly maxed out, each labeled as temporary family bridge loans. Total balance, $126,400. Revoke access, I said. Derek nodded and kept writing. The third item, the summer house. It wasn't just a vacation property. It was their shrine, where family photos were staged, where Mom hosted her charity luncheons, where Harper once threw a recovery party after breaking up with a guy she'd dated for 2 weeks. It was the only place they all cared about more than each other. List it, I said. Immediately. Derek looked up. You sure? That place meant a lot to them. So did I said. Apparently not enough. He didn't argue after that. By the time we finished the paperwork, it was almost noon. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from Harper. Crisis averted, raising hands. The new paint color is perfect. Sage instead of seafoam. Thank God for Mom plus Dad red heart. Hashtag family first. Hashtag interior healing. I held the phone out to Derek. Still think I'm being dramatic? He scanned the message, jaw tightening. You want to respond? I opened the family group chat and typed. Still in ICU after emergency heart surgery. Glad Harper's walls are green. Thanks for checking in. Within minutes, the replies came in like roaches when the lights flick off. Mom, sweetheart, don't be dramatic. Doctor said you're stable. Dad, we'll stop by this weekend. Harper, wow, way to make this about you. I turned the phone face down. Keep going, I told Derek. We're not done yet. You don't realize you've been drowning until your feet hit the bottom. Only then can you push up and break the surface. Lying in that ICU bed, for humming beside me, I finally touched that bottom. The painkillers numb my body, but not my thoughts. And for the first time in my life, I let the memories come, not the curated ones from the photo albums my mother kept in perfect order, but the real ones. The ones with sharp edges. Like the time I graduated college, the first in our family to earn an honors degree. I'd worked 2 jobs to finish school without debt, skipped spring breaks, and studied until my vision blurred. I invited the whole family. They didn't show. Harper had a meltdown over a botched spray 10 the day before. She's inconsolable, Mom had said on the phone. You know how she gets. Or the time I launched my tech firm. My startup made headlines after we landed our first 6-figure client. We threw a party, my team, friends, investors. I even arranged a shuttle to make it easy for my parents to come. They didn't. Harper had been dumped again. They flew out to support her emotional healing journey. I remembered the feeling of standing by the catering table, checking my phone like a dog waiting by the door. The texts, sorry, sweetheart. Harper really needed us tonight. We'll celebrate you soon. They never did. And then there was Christmas last year. Harper had racked up $50,000 in credit card debt. Again. Jewelry, spa retreats, some wellness retreat. In Sedona, where she found herself for the 4th time that year. Mom was crying. Dad was pacing. Harper, of course, was posting selfies from the guest room, captioned, when life gets hard, lean on family. Blessed. Hashtag resilient AF. I wrote the check, quietly, without being asked, because it was what a good brother does. At dinner, Harper opened a limited edition designer bag that Mom had wrapped for her. My gift, a pat on the back, and, you're such a rock for this family, Ethan. I smiled and took another bite of dry turkey. What I didn't say was, I hadn't bought myself a winter coat that year, because that check bounced hard. That pattern repeated itself, like a script I never agreed to perform in. I built safety nets. They jumped into chaos. I cleaned up. They smiled in family portraits. I sacrificed. They posted quotes about loyalty and love. Now I was lying in a hospital bed, my chest stitched from surgery, alone except for the hum of machines and the ghost of all those sacrifices. And suddenly, the math added up. Not emotionally, but brutally logically. I was never their first choice, never their concern. I was the insurance policy, the fallback, the responsible one. The one who'd never say no, because saying no meant risking the illusion of family. And now, that illusion was gone. I opened my email, drafted a message to my financial advisor. Cease all account access for Harper more effective immediately. Transfer all auto payments to personal review only. Review any shared assets and flag anything tied to family trust funds. No further spending from accounts unless clear by me. I don't care if they scream. I hit send. No hesitation. Then I drafted another note to my assistant Kyle. Please schedule a meeting with a publicist. I'm going to tell my story. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for clarity. And if that clarity made people uncomfortable, so be it. It came at 11:47 a.m., just as the nurse was changing the dressing over my surgical scar. A ping. One vibration. One message. From Harper. Crisis averted, raising hands. The new paint color is sage green. Thank God for mom and dad. I was literally dying before. Hashtag family first. Hashtag healing vibes. Hashtag my sanctuary. I stared at it. Not for a second. Not for a minute. For hours. Because in just 24 words, she'd reduced my near-death experience to a forgotten footnote in her day. And my parents, who hadn't stepped foot in the ICU, were heroes for helping her pick a shade of green. Family first. That was the hashtag. I turned the screen to Derek, who had just returned from filing documents. He blinked once. Then again. This is a joke, right? No, I said calmly. That's the real emergency this week. He let out a low whistle. Want me to reply? I shook my head. I've got this. I opened the family group chat and typed, fingers cool and steady. Still in ICU after emergency heart surgery. But thrilled to hear Harper's walls are now sage green instead of seafoam. Clearly worth missing your son's near-death experience for. I pressed send. And just like that, the quiet was shattered. Mom. Sweetheart. The doctor said you're stable. Don't be dramatic. Dad. We'll visit soon. We were just trying to support Harper during a difficult time. Harper. OMG. Are you seriously making this about you right now? That last one. That was the spark. I turned my phone face down and looked at Derek. Let's proceed with the full package. You sure? I nodded. Burn it all. Cut every cord. And start the listing on the Florida house today. He flipped open his leather folder. Right away. By evening, the legal separation had a name. The more dissolution protocol. Cold. Legal. Surgical. Just like the way they'd treated me. It included full revocation of Harper's secondary card access. Emergency freezing of the family trust account. Listing of all shared properties under my name for immediate sale. Final revision of my will, with every single family member removed. This wasn't revenge. It was a reset, a deep exhale I'd been holding in for decades. The next morning, while sipping hospital coffee that tasted like regret, I checked Instagram. Harper had posted story. Boomerang. Twirling in her newly painted living room. Caption. Sometimes it takes a village. So grateful for parents who drop everything to help in a crisis. Green heart hashtag blessed hashtag paint therapy. That's when something inside me stopped hurting and started hardening. I wasn't angry. I was done. I reached for my laptop. Wrote an email to my company. Subject. I'll be gone for a while. I told them the truth. Not the drama. Not the gossip. Just this. Family should show up. Mine didn't. I almost died alone. I'm taking time to heal. Not just my body, but my boundaries. The pen didn't shake in my hand. Not even once. I'd always thought moments like this came with trembling fingers and second guessing. But there was no hesitation, no whisper of doubt. Just the quiet click of a ballpoint and the sound of my name carving its way across a page. The first document was the will, the official removal. I scratched out the names of 2 people who had carried the title of parent for 38 years and never earned a job description. There was no bitterness in the motion, just clarity. They weren't in the room when I coded. They weren't there when the surgeons restarted my heart. They weren't in the chair when I woke up covered in wires and fear. They weren't in my future anymore. Derek slid the next page forward, a revocation of financial access. It listed Harper's name 4 times. 4 accounts. For different banks. For ways I've been silently bankrolling her lifestyle while she cried over quartz countertops and Instagram aesthetics. My eyes lingered on the phrase, irrevocable termination. It sounded final. And it was. I signed. Next came the property. The house in Florida. The beach view. The lemon trees Mom liked to photograph for her Christmas cards. It was their shrine. The last relic of a family fantasy I had spent my life underwriting. I signed a transfer order without flinching. They loved that house, but they never loved me enough to show up. For them, family was seasonal, convenient, performative. For me, it had been everything. And that was the difference. The injustice. I had shown up every single time. I'd covered Harper's debts, hosted holiday dinners, and sent flowers for birthdays that were forgotten in return. I had driven 6 hours in a snowstorm to help Dad fix a burst pipe at that same beach house. And when I lay dying, they chose sage green. I signed the last document. Full authority transfer to Derek's firm to handle the asset liquidation. He watched me for a long moment before speaking. That's everything, he said quietly. I nodded. That's everything. For a moment, the room was silent. But it wasn't the heavy silence of grief. It was the stillness of reclamation. The moment you bury what was never yours to carry. The monitor beside me beeped softly, my heart holding steady now. Almost proud. Derek began organizing the folders, but paused. Wanting to hold them a few days? Give you time. I shook my head. No. File them now. He didn't ask why. He knew. I wasn't just severing ties. I was auditing a legacy. Mine. The one they buried under Harper's spotlight and smothered beneath their expectations. I wasn't the side character anymore. I wasn't the emergency contact who was never contacted. I was Ethan Moore, son of silence, brother of absence, but finally man of my own making. They arrived 3 days late. Mom swept into the ICU like it was a spa appointment she was running behind for. Hermes scarf draped just right, a bouquet of flowers so oversized it looked like it was compensating for something. Dad trailed behind, stiff in his blazer, trying not to make eye contact with the machines keeping me alive. Darling, Mom said, her voice too bright. These fluorescent lights are just awful for your skin. You look pale. I almost died, I replied. That'll do it. She blinked, clearly not prepared for honesty. Dad cleared his throat, stepping forward like a man about to give a speech he hadn't written himself. Princess, he said, the nickname they used for Harper, but occasionally recycled when trying to feign warmth toward me. There's no need for that tone. We're here now. 3 days. 3 days of silence. 3 days of fear, of legal papers, of reawakening. 3 days where strangers held my hand while my family picked out wall paint. And now they were here, with roses and rehearsed concern. I didn't respond. I reached for the morphine button, not out of pain, but for patience. We wanted to come sooner, Mom continued, arranging the flowers beside me. But Harper's still dealing with that contractor. Total nightmare. They botched the crown molding. Can you believe it? She's been crying nonstop. I turned to stare out the window. Did you know her paint swatch story got more likes than my surgery announcement? Silence. Then footsteps in the hallway. Polished leather soles. Derek entered the room, crisp as ever in his navy suit, carrying his portfolio like a shield. My mother's face lit up like Christmas morning. I knew that look. She used to hope we'd date. Derek, she said, lovely to see you. Are you here to check on our boy? No, he said, walking past her. I'm here in my professional capacity. He handed me a folder. I opened it. They watched. I let them. Mom, Dad, I said, my voice steady. You remember Derek is my attorney, right? The shift in the room was immediate. Mom's lips parted slightly. Dad's smile froze mid-expression. These are copies of the legal actions I filed this week. I continued. You've been removed from my will. Your access to my accounts is revoked. And the beach house, it's been listed. The house. Dad asked, voice faltering. But where will we go this summer? Not my concern. Mom clutched her scarf, her voice cracking. Ethan, please. You can't be serious. We're family. No, I said, the words cutting like glass. You're relatives. There's a difference. She flinched. I leaned forward slowly, letting the monitors beep in sync with my words. Let me tell you about family, I said. Family doesn't skip your graduation because your sister had a spray tan crisis. Family doesn't miss your startup launch because your sister had a breakup. Family doesn't ghost your hospital bed because they're helping pick out sage green. You're being unfair, Dad muttered. We've done so much for you. No, I said. I've done everything for you. I turned to Derek. Give him the next part. He handed them the document detailing years of financial transactions. My payments for Harper's debts. The checks I wrote to save them from foreclosure during the recession. The business loans. The college tuition. Mom's mascara started to run. Dad's hands trembled. This isn't about money, Mom whispered. It never was, I said. It was about presence. About choosing me. And you didn't. Not when it mattered. A long pause. A silence that seemed to swallow the oxygen from the room. Then Derek said, almost gently, the house is already under contract. Cash buyer. Full price. Dad sat down hard in the visitor chair. You're really doing this? I already did, I said. Mom looked at me, eyes pleading. You're our son. I met her gaze. And where were you when your son was lying in a hospital bed alone? She had no answer, just trembling lips and tired excuses. I pressed the nurse call button. I need rest, I said. They're leaving now. When the nurse appeared, Derek stepped in, calm but firm. They've been asked to leave. Security's been notified in case they make it difficult. As they were escorted out, I heard Mom's voice break behind the closing door. She can't do this. He's our son. I whispered to no one in particular. No, I'm just the backup son you only remembered when your favorite started posting selfies again. It came at 3 a.m. The room was dark except for the faint glow of the heart monitor, pulsing steady green lines across the screen beside me. I had finally drifted into something that felt like sleep. Not deep, but just enough to forget. Then the phone buzzed. I didn't need to check the screen. I knew it was her. Harper. The name lit up like a ghost from a childhood I was trying to bury. For a moment, I stared at it. Not because I didn't know what to do, but because for the first time, I felt nothing. No dread, no guilt, no duty, just silence. Then I answered. How dare you, she snapped. No hello, no pause. Straight to rage. How dare you do this to Mom and Dad? They're devastated. Mom's been crying all day. Dad can't even sleep. And I've had to deal with everything. Do you know how much stress you're causing right now? I sat up in bed, adjusted my pillow, and let her go on. She didn't disappoint. You made us look like monsters, she hissed. Do you even understand what you've done to our family reputation? People are talking. My Instagram followers are asking questions. Sponsors are pulling out. There it was. The real crisis. Not my heart attack. Not the decades of emotional neglect. But her online aesthetic falling apart. Good morning to you too. Harper, I said calmly. How's the crown molding? You think this is funny? She shouted. No, but it's familiar. She paused, thrown off. That was new. I usually apologize by now. You need to fix this, she demanded. Call Derek. Reverse everything. Tell people you overreacted. Say you misunderstood. Or what? I asked. The silence on the line was sudden and deep. Or I'll never speak to you again, she said, voice trembling. The old tactic. The childhood guilt. I almost smiled. Is that supposed to be a threat? I asked. You promised, she said. When we were kids, remember? You said you'd always protect me. Always take care of me. I did remember. Vividly. She was 6. I was 12. She had destroyed my science fair project the night before it was due. Smeared glue over the circuits I'd built for weeks. Mom had scolded me for not sharing. I'd taken the blame. Hugged her when she cried. Told her I'd never let anything bad happen to her. And I kept that promise, even when it killed pieces of me along the way. I sold Grandma's ring for you, I said softly. Remember that? I said thank you, she snapped. Then used the money to buy herself a new designer bag. I needed it, she insisted. You needed a lot. And I gave. Over and over. And the one time I needed you, you chose paint. She didn't respond. Mom wants a family meeting, she finally said, voice brittle. Tomorrow. Noon. The cafeteria downstairs. Just come. I leaned back against the pillows, my chest rising and falling in perfect rhythm. Noon, I said. But I'm not coming alone. What? I'm bringing Camila. Why the hell would you bring her? Because I'm done being outnumbered. The cafeteria smelled like over-brewed coffee and reheated regret. I arrived 5 minutes early. Camila was already there, sipping tea with that quiet intensity she wore like armor. She looked up as I sat down. "You ready for this?" she asked. I nodded. I've never been more ready. At 12:06, they arrived. Mom and Dad first, exhausted, dressed like they hadn't slept, which for once felt honest. Then Harper, 10 minutes late, of course, wearing oversized sunglasses indoors, cradling a venti iced latte like it was medication. She slid into the seat across from me, with all the grace of a silent tantrum. "Thank you for coming," Mom began, voice tight but rehearsed. "We need to talk about this misunderstanding." Camila didn't even flinch. "Misunderstanding? You mean the part where you abandoned your son after heart surgery?" Harper rolled her eyes. "Oh God, here we go. I was family when you needed credit cards paid off," I said. My voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. But now that I've drawn a line, I'm suddenly the problem. Dad raised his hands like a referee. "Let's not escalate. I cut in. Let's finally escalate." They looked stunned. I'd never raised my voice to them before, and the fact that I didn't have to now made it worse for them. "You want to talk about betrayal?" I leaned in. "You left me alone. You picked wall paint over your son's failing heart. And now you're angry because I made it public." "It's revenge," Harper snapped. "And it's beneath you." "This isn't revenge," I said. "This is boundaries. Something none of you have ever respected." Harper slammed her latte down on the table. "My anxiety is through the roof because of you. My followers know something's off. My brand is bleeding." Camila snorted. "Your sister nearly died, but your brand is bleeding. Stay out of this." Harper hissed, turning on her. "No," I said. "Camila stays. Because unlike the rest of you, she was there." Mom started crying. On cue. "Oh, please," Camila muttered. "Cue the tears." "We can fix this," Mom said through sobs. "Just call Derek. Reverse everything. We're your family." "The house is already in escrow," I said calmly. "The accounts are closed. It's done." Harper stood up so fast her chair fell backward. "You ungrateful." And before the sentence finished, her latte flew through the air, a sticky arc of caffeine and cream. Camila dodged. The cup hit the floor and shattered. The entire cafeteria went silent. Security was already moving toward us. I didn't move. I just looked at them, one by one, and said the words that had been sitting in my chest like stones for decades. "We're done here." "Ethan," Mom pleaded, "please, we can talk when you've calmed down." "No, I'll be discharged tomorrow," I said, standing up. "And when I leave this hospital, I'm leaving all of this behind." Then I turned to Harper. "Oh, and by the way, I've instructed Derek to file a restraining order. Consider this your first and last warning." As security escorted her out, screaming, flailing, dragging the final shreds of her dignity behind her, I felt something shift in my chest. Not anger, not grief, relief. I looked down at the spilled latte, then up at my parents, still frozen, still speechless. "You taught me something," I said softly. "You taught me that sometimes family isn't a blessing. It's a bill, and I'm done paying it." The house looked smaller than I remembered. Maybe it had always been that way. Or maybe, now that I wasn't trying to earn space inside it, I could finally see how little room there had ever been for me. Camila parked the car at the end of the driveway. A police cruiser was stationed discreetly down the street, arranged by Derek just in case. I almost laughed. Growing up, I thought the worst thing that could happen in this house was a bad report card. Now, I needed witnesses just to pick up my childhood photos. "I can go in first," Camila offered. "No," I said. "I need to do this." I stepped out of the car, the key cold in my pocket. But before I could use it, the front door swung open. Mom stood there. She wasn't wearing makeup. Her scarf was gone. The color in her face looked drained, not from sadness, but from control finally slipping out of her hands. "You brought security?" she said, voice cracking. "I brought witnesses," I replied. "You've taught me the hard way." Dad appeared behind her. "Ethan, this is unnecessary." I looked him in the eye. After Hazel's latest stunt, I'd say it's very necessary. They stepped aside. The house smelled like stress cleaning and Chanel No. 5. Polished but hollow. "I'm here for my things," I said. "Just some documents. Childhood photos. That's it." "Wait," Mom said. "There's something you need to know." I paused. Her fingers were twisting her wedding ring, her tell. The same nervous tick she used every time she was about to lie. "I'll stand," I said. She exchanged a glance with Dad, who nodded slightly. "It's about your adoption." Time stopped. "What?" "You're not biologically ours," she said. "Your real mother was my sister, Sarah. When she died in that accident, we took you in. You were two. We never told you because we wanted you to feel like real family." The air thinned. I staggered back a half step before catching myself. Aunt Sarah. I remembered her name only from old photo captions. She died young. A car crash. Mom's only sibling. She was always a ghost at the edges of every story. And she was my mother. Dad stepped forward. "We loved you like our own." "Stop," I said. My voice wasn't raised, but it was final. "You loved me like your own," I repeated. "But you didn't tell me about the genetic heart condition I could have inherited. Because for Harper, it was real. For me, I was just expendable." Mom's eyes welled up. "We didn't want you to feel different." "Different?" I almost laughed. "You mean like how you treated me every single day of my life?" Then heavy footsteps came from the stairwell. Hazel, still dramatic, still late, still made up like she was about to go live on TikTok. "Oh, good," she said, voice acidic. "He finally knows he's not really my brother." I turned to her. My voice came out low, cold, controlled. "Then I guess I'm not really responsible for you anymore." She flinched. All those years I spent bending over backward, apologizing, covering, sacrificing, they'd wrapped it all in guilt and called it love. But it wasn't. It was leverage. "You ungrateful." Harper started, but Mom cut her off. "We gave you everything," she cried. "A home, an education, opportunity." "No," I said. "I earned those. While you coddled your real daughter." I walked past Harper, climbed the stairs, and found the box I'd come for: photos, birth certificate copies, a few journals I hadn't seen in years. At the bottom, wrapped in aging tissue paper, was a frame. A woman holding a toddler. Brown eyes. Quiet strength. My mother. My real mother. I closed the box and descended the stairs as chaos erupted. Harper screaming about inheritance rights. Mom sobbing about loyalty. Dad trying to talk over everyone like he could smooth this over with a checkbook and charm. I walked past them all, box in hand. "That's my photo album." Harper shrieked, lunging toward me. A police officer stepped in between us. "No," I said calmly. "These are Sarah's photos. My mother's. I'm taking what's mine and leaving what never was." Mom grabbed my arm. "You can't just walk away from this family." I shook her off. "I'm not walking away from family. I'm walking away from people who kept me around as a convenient backup plan." She went pale. "We'll sue," Harper screamed. "We'll take everything." I stopped at the threshold. "Turn back one last time." "Go ahead," I said. "Just remember, I have proof of financial fraud, medical neglect, and now, proof that you knowingly hid my adoption to exploit me. Let's see how that plays in court." Silence fell. I stepped out into the sun. Behind me, Mom collapsed into tears. Dad fumbled to comfort her. Harper shrieked something incoherent. In my arms, I held nothing but truth, and it was finally enough. The sun in California hit differently. Maybe it was the air, a little saltier, a little freer. Or maybe it was just the fact that for the first time in my life, I wasn't carrying anyone else's weight but my own. I had been in my new apartment for a week. The final paperwork on the Florida house had closed. The check from the sale, $4.2 million, sat untouched in my account. Derek slid it across my desk like a reward I hadn't realized I'd earned. "What are you going to do with it?" he asked. I didn't have to think. Clear out the rest. Sell everything. He raised an eyebrow. "Even the piano?" I paused. "The baby grand. My sanctuary. My joy. Until the day Mom gave it to Harper for her 16th birthday. Knowing full well Harper couldn't even play Twinkle Twinkle. Especially the piano," I said. Later that night, my phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number. Missing something? Attached was a photo. The ring. My grandmother's ring. The one I sold to bail Harper out of another gambling hole. The one that belonged to Sarah, my mother. My real mother. The message continued. "Want it back. Meet me." I didn't reply. I called Derek instead. "They're desperate," I said. He chuckled. That was amateur hour. A A pause. Then he said something I didn't expect. I bought the ring back months ago. It's in my safe. My voice caught. You what? I knew you'd want it one day. Didn't know when, but I knew. The next day, Camila came by with coffee and a small velvet box. No explanation, just a quiet smile. I opened it slowly, like unwrapping a version of myself that had been locked away. Inside was the ring, but now it hung from chain. I figured it deserved a new home, Camila said. Somewhere closer to your heart. I slipped it over my neck, and for the first time, I didn't feel its weight. I felt its meaning. Not a debt, a beginning. That evening, I wrote the final entry in my blog. The Silent Sun, choosing myself. I didn't name names. I didn't spill revenge. I told the truth. That family isn't made of blood or duty or old photographs. It's made of choice. And every day we get to decide who sits at our table and who no longer gets a seat. By sunrise, the post had 500,000 shares. Camila read through the comments aloud. You helped me walk away. Thank you for reminding me I deserve peace. Today I chose me too. Somewhere in that sea of affirmation, I felt something bloom. Not pride, not vindication, but peace. A week later, I walked past the ocean with Camila, barefoot in the sand. She reached over, touched the ring at my chest. Still heavy? She asked. I shook my head. No, I said. Not anymore. We walked on. Behind us, noise, legacy, expectation. Ahead of us, silence, space, and sky. I didn't just survive. I began. If this story found its way to your heart, maybe it's time to ask yourself, are you living for the love you deserve, or just the love you were taught to chase? Don't wait for permission to protect your peace. Share this story if it reminded you of your own. Leave a comment if you've ever had to walk away to finally come home to yourself. Subscribe for more true stories of courage, healing, and the quiet power of choosing yourself.